We usually think that high intelligence means having all the answers, right? But what if that's completely backward? What if it's not about the answers at all? Today, we're diving into the mental habits of really, really smart people. And it turns out it all comes down to the questions they ask. We're going to look at the key types of questions that really define a sharp mind.
Seriously, just think about that for a second. What if the real sign of a brilliant mind isn't knowing everything, but having the instinct to ask the right questions? This is going to be fun, because we are about to unpack the mental habits that define a truly sharp intellect.
And this really gets to the heart of it. High intelligence isn't some fixed score you're born with, not at all. It's a dynamic process, a whole framework for thinking that's built on pure curiosity. And you want to know the best part? It's a framework that any of us can learn to use.
So here's what's fascinating. Psychological research shows that highly intelligent people have this kind of mental toolkit of questions that they use almost automatically. And these aren't just random, what-ifs. They are powerful tools that literally shape how they see the world, challenge their own thinking, and just fuel their constant desire to learn more.
All right, let's dive into the first set of tools. These are the questions that help you dig way deeper than the obvious stuff, to really understand the world around you with incredible depth and clarity.
Think of these questions as your personal X-ray vision for reality. Instead of just seeing an event, you ask, okay, but why did this happen? You're not just looking at a single fact. You're asking, how does this little piece connect to the huge bigger picture? It's all about uncovering the invisible structures that drive pretty much everything. Okay, take the simplest, but maybe the most powerful question of all, why? So a company's stock price drops. Most people just see the effect and panic. But a mind that's using causal reasoning, it immediately starts digging. Was it a bad earnings report? A new competitor popping up? A huge shift in the market? They're tracing that event all the way back to its roots to find the real cause.
And then you have this natural instinct to connect the dots, which we call systems thinking. So instead of seeing things as just isolated facts, you start asking, how does this fit into the whole system? For instance, you might see a news story about a chip shortage. You don't just think, oh, my new phone will be expensive. You connect it to global supply chains, international politics, and heck, even the future of artificial intelligence. You see that everything is part of a larger system.
So we've looked at how these questions help us understand the world out there. But the next step, well, this is maybe the hardest and most important one, turning that lens of curiosity back on ourselves. These questions right here, they are all about intellectual humility. They're like a built-in fact-checker against our own biases, our blind spots, and that very human tendency we all have to just jump to conclusions way too fast.
I mean, just asking yourself, what am I missing? That's a perfect example of metacognition. It's basically thinking about your own thinking. It's this quiet, powerful acknowledgement that you probably don't have the full picture, and that little question leads to better listening, more thoughtful analysis, and way fewer mistakes from being overconfident. And all of this builds this incredible habit of self-correction. So instead of just accepting the first answer that pops into your head, a really sharp thinker immediately challenges it. Wait a second, is this really the best explanation? What assumptions am I making here without even realizing it? This constant internal debate is the real engine of critical thinking. Okay, so we've covered analyzing the world and analyzing ourselves. Now let's look at how these questions become the fuel for action, for innovation, and for some serious, unstoppable personal growth. These questions are all about looking forward. They don't let you get stuck on what went wrong. Nope, they force you to focus on what can be created, what can be learned, and what can be achieved. And that mindset, it transforms every single situation, even a total failure, into a chance to grow. That simple two-word question, what if, is the spark for all innovation. Psychologists call it counterfactual thinking. Just think about how Airbnb started. Hotels were the only game in town, but somebody, somewhere, asked, what if travelers could just stay in a spare room in someone's home? That one question created a multi-billion-dollar industry. It's all about seeing possibilities where everybody else just sees a dead end. In this simple loop, this is the secret to learning fast. So you have an experience, maybe you make a mistake, you fail at something. The critical part is step 2. Instead of just feeling bad about it, you ask, okay, what can I learn from this? That one question transforms the whole experience from a setback into a lesson. It creates this amazing feedback loop where you're constantly turning mistakes into new knowledge and new skills. It's awesome. Okay, for our final section, we're going to explore a side of intelligence that's just as important as logic or reason. We're talking about the questions that build empathy, understanding, and just stronger human connections.
What these questions do is shift your focus from a purely analytical view to a social and emotional one. They are literally the foundation of what we call emotional intelligence, and they help us navigate the super complex world of human interaction.
When you find yourself asking, why do people do what they do? You're actually practicing something called social cognition. You're looking beyond their actions to try and understand their motivations, their fears, their desires. And that lets you anticipate how people might react and respond, with wisdom instead of just reacting on impulse.
This chart just shows the difference perfectly. So on one side, you have a surface reaction, like asking, are you okay? But on the other, you have a deeper inquiry, wondering what might have triggered this feeling in them. Instead of just thinking, will this help me, you ask, how will this choice affect the whole team? It's about considering the context, the cause, and the impact on others. And that, right there, is the difference between simply interacting and truly connecting.
So let's bring all of this together. We've gone through how a few key types of questions can help us understand the world, challenge our own minds, fuel our growth, and connect better with other people. And it really all boils down to one central idea. And that central idea is this. The ability to ask these powerful questions isn't some magical talent you're born with. It is a skill. It's a habit of mind. And just like any other habit, it is something you can consciously practice and make your own, starting today.
At the end of the day, the goal isn't to become a walking encyclopedia, just stuffed with facts. The goal is to become a master inquirer, someone who can unlock a deeper understanding of any situation, simply by asking the right question at exactly the right time.
And that brings us to the final and most important question of all. This one's for you. Thinking about all the questions we've just talked about, from digging deeper into the world to challenging yourself, which one of them are you going to make a real effort to start asking today?